Happy Wednesday, everyone. Happy Wednesday, everyone. And welcome to our special perspective. Meet the candidate. This is part five. And as you can see on the screen, we are 6 days away from the primary elections on next Tuesday. So it is a joy and an honor to be able to come to you every day this week as we've been doing. And tonight is no exception. And we did come on a little later, was experiencing some technical difficulties, but we're going to go ahead and get right on it. Hello to everyone that is watching and that will join us, and we ask that everyone would go ahead and tag and share. Tag and share. You all have been messaging me, letting me know how informative these has been, and that means a lot. So please continue to tag and share. Tonight will not be any exception. Tonight we have a great lineup, and our first guest is backstage. We're going to go ahead and bring her on at this time. Let me go ahead and get the background changed over. And our first guest tonight is attorney Ruth Robertson. She's running for circuit court judge in domestic relations in place 20. And Ruth is a native of Birmingham and a graduate of Birmingham Southern College with an undergraduate degree in psychology. She attended Cumberland School of Law and received a scholarship for academic achievement. At Cumberland, she was an associate editor of the Cumberland Law Review. She graduated at the top of her class. She has represented people most in need of our state's domestic relations and criminal courts. She served as pro bono counsel in several important cases in addition to her regular practice as a private attorney. For Ruth, being an attorney is all about helping people, and when people need an attorney, they often cannot afford one. Ruth is a mom and a lawyer and has served in these roles for nearly 20 years. As an attorney, she respects and realizes the importance of each case to each of her clients' issues, freedom, and children. She recognizes injustices that affect lives, and she promises that she will work diligently for you, the citizens of Jefferson County, Alabama, to ensure that all children who are affected by divorce are considered first, not last, when a couple divorces. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce this. I'm going to present to others, attorney Ruth Robertson. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. And so before we get started, I do want to clear the air. I know we did have a candidate for domestic relations on last night, but that was place 23. And so Ruth is running for place 20. So it's not out of the ordinary to see, especially a court system as large as Jefferson County, where you will see the same place, well, the same judge in the same thing, but a different place. So I did want to clear the air before we continue tonight. But thank you for joining us, and let's go ahead and get right on it. In reading your bio, I was very impressed. And one thing that I can say for those of you who've been watching, all of our candidates, they bring to the table 20 years or more of experience, just about. So that means that you are well capable, well qualified. I want to start this question for you tonight. Operating in honesty and integrity, what does that look like for you as an attorney and a judge?
So your question is what it means to operate in honesty and integrity.
Yes.
Okay. It means to be fair, impartial, and to always know that you're held to a higher moral standard. No lying, no cheating, no playing dirty, and corruption is just not part of the game.
Absolutely. And then in that same vein, let's talk about being a fair judge to all of the clients that you deal with. Because I think everybody, they can say when they have to stand before a judge in court, they want a judge that's going to be fair.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree 100%. And one thing that's key to recognize about
Okay.
biasness is that, a lot of people, it is our normal human nature to kind of see somebody and think, they're rich or poor or whatever, this to prejudge. But it's when you really sit there and can actually retract the prejudgment because of some newly developed or presented facts that really matter. So, we're often very wrong when we judge a book by its cover or a person by the way that they look like. So, um, I realize that, and I'm not I'm not opposed to backtracking from my first opinion once I learn of new facts. So I think that's very important for a judge because so many times I know you've heard and know about cases where the judge has prejudged the whole case based on the identity of the lawyers that are possibly representing the parties. And that's completely unfair because it's not the lawyer who's really before the court, it's their client. So a judge really has to get past that. And just because they've got a certain lawyer who you like or dislike doesn't mean that this person doesn't have a real case and a real issue that should be decided fairly by the judge. So that's a
Absolutely.
very important part of being a judge.
Okay. And then before we continue, I know people are on, they're already wanting to know the people that can vote for you. Can you tell us some of the neighborhoods and areas where you will appear on ballots?
Well, there are, if I'm not mistaken, 36 zip codes in the areas that can vote for me.
Okay.
So on the north side of everything in Jefferson County, unincorporated Jefferson County, all the cities in Jefferson County, everything except for the Bessemer cutoff, and they'll be voting for their own judges in the primary next week.
Gotcha. So that makes it a lot easier. Then I'll have you to say that again towards the end as well. So we talked about being fair. We talked about operating in honesty and integrity. Let's talk about, because I think sometimes when we talk about domestic relations, people really don't understand the spectrum of some of the cases that you will try. So give us an idea of some of those cases that you actually would try.
Okay. Domestic relations is everything concerning the dissolution of a marriage. So if the parties have been married, even if it was 10 years ago, if they have children or they're going back to court about the kids or a modification degree as far as the kids go, they would be going to domestic relations court. So typically the types of trials that would be had are when a couple is divorcing and they have fact issues that they need for the judge to determine. And unlike all the other courts that are civil in nature, this is a civil in court, but the judge is going to be the finder of facts. So it's very important that you get somebody that's fair and that knows the law and that will apply the law and that cares about what the law is. Because, in my opinion, there are often times when there is a right answer and nobody ever got to the right answer in cases. So I think that if you study the law and carefully weigh the facts and spend the adequate time on each case, then you should get the right answer.
Okay.
Most of the time, if not
Okay.
90% of the time.
And then I asked this question to our candidate last night, and I'd like to ask you the same thing. Um, Things are different now. For years, we saw, especially cases in divorce, we saw where I would say about 95% of the time the judge was going to rule in the mother's favor. But now we're seeing a lot of males step up to the plate and want to fight for the rights for their children. Talk about that for a few moments, because like I said, times are changing and we are seeing more of that.
Right. Well, when the judge is deciding a custody issue, they're weighing lots of different factors that are set forth in our statute in Alabama, and it's factors that have to do with the best interest of the child. So the judge should hear facts relating to who the child is most close with, who's been taking care of the child, who's got the closer relationship. Maybe dad quit his job so that he could stay home with the kid. Well, he should have that in his favor as far as custody rights go. Um, then, of course, if there's abuse or alcoholism, or that would strike against mom or dad, whoever has that. So the judge takes all of that and weighs it, and then determines what's going to be best for the child. Now, in my opinion, I think that what's best for the child is going to be to have both parents in his or in her life. This once every other weekend, the every other weekend for dad, and that's the only time he gets to see his children after a divorce,
Right.
I think is rather unfair. That's my personal opinion, because unless the dad has got, criminal issues and or psychological issues and is abusive, then I think that both parents should really participate in the child's life as much as possible. And there can be uh, a custody arrangement that incorporates that.
Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, you are watching Perspective Meet the Candidate 2022, Part 5. We have Attorney Ruth Robinson on, who is running for Jefferson County Circuit Court Judge for Place 20 for domestic relations. And if you do have questions, you can go ahead and drop them in the comments, and we will definitely post your question on the screen to get them answered. Divorce. We know that divorce can be just devastating for the married couple, no matter how long they've been married. We're learning that even when couples say, well, divorce isn't going to affect me, it does in some type of way, and the children involved. How important is it that when there's divorce, do you feel that all parties, children included, if they need counseling to cope with their feelings? Talk about the importance of that.
Well, I think it's very important. A lot of our public schools have realized that as well. And so when they hear that a couple's divorcing and the kids are going to that school, they will offer some amount of programs or counseling for the children. And that's a good thing, because everybody has feelings when it comes to the divorce. And the kids are the first on the list, because they didn't ask to even be born, and they didn't ask for the marriage to end. They're just all of a sudden thrown into a role of even being a weapon for the parents to get back at each other. And that's a
Absolutely.
really sad situation. So they absolutely need counseling, and so does mom and dad, so that they can try and learn to have a civil relationship for the purpose of the kids. There's lots of counseling available. Unfortunately, because of Alabama's feelings on mental health, we probably aren't as good as other states, but there are some volunteer organizations and programs. There's Impact Family Counseling that will give counseling to children who don't have, the best of insurance, or the parents with the most money. So they'll still see the kids, and then in school, of course. And there's other programs as well. But I think everybody is benefited from getting some therapy when they go through this sad situation of divorce.
When there are children or a child or children involved in divorce, if a child comes to the point where they start to feel like they're the blame for the divorce, how do you think that either those parents should address that child?
Well, from the very beginning, when the parents are telling the child that this is what's going to happen here, this is what mom and dad are planning to do, we're planning to live apart, it has nothing to do with you, and that should be reiterated to the child again and again until they understand that.
Mhm.
Um, like I said earlier, a lot of parents are putting these kids in the middle of it, though, and so that's a really sad situation, and counseling is definitely needed. And sometimes, court orders and court counseling, from the from the judge, warnings, you're not allowed to do this.
Absolutely.
It can be effective, but sometimes they continue on no matter what anybody does, and that's just really detrimental to the kids. So I think that we all need to stand up to that when we see it happening. How many times have we seen that with our friends and other people that are going through the divorce, and they hear one parent bad mouthing the other parent to the child. So anyway.
Okay. And I do want to highlight one of the reasons why, and this was in a bio that you sent me, but I didn't have a chance to put them together. You are a divorced mom. And so one of the reasons I think this is good because you can relate to a lot of the things that you see. Um, being relatable as a judge, because like I said, you can definitely be relatable because you've gone through divorce. Talk about the importance of being relatable.
Well, I think that a judge that's going to be hearing facts and deciding what's true and what's not true needs to be not only empathetic to what the parties are going through, perhaps having some personal experience dealing with it, but they need to be intuitive enough to know, that doesn't sound like it's true, and that does. So we've got to craft a solution for this family. Um, I kind of ask your question again. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's talk about the importance of being
Be
relatable.
relatable.
Mhm.
Well, I think I'm relatable in that I am a mom of kids that have gone through divorce, and I understand that it was really sad for them. My uncle told me at the very beginning, Ruth, make it all about the kids. That's my campaign slogan, because if you focus on the kids and what their needs are during this situation, you kind of, that's really what you're supposed to be focused on. But also wanted to mention to you too, I'm a daughter of divorced parents who like to talk about each other, and I was, so I was the counselor, or at least used as the counselor in this situation. And today, when my parents do that, because they still do it, I
Wow.
understand. I just kind of laugh it off, right? But when you're younger and you don't know that this is just, they're never going to stop. Some people are just like that.
Wow.
I get it. And as far as being relatable, I've had grief in my life. I haven't had a perfect life. I've had a brother with mental illness, so I understand what it's like to have somebody that's going through a really tough time in your family,
Okay.
and it's not proud moments for the family. Everybody's feeling like shameful.
Hmm.
So I relate to these people that are going through this, that are going to be in the court if I am elected judge.
Okay. And then, because I just believe when judges are relatable, that can make the persons that are standing before you a little bit more have a sense of comfort. It's
Comfortably, I
not,
was going to say that
it's not
need
gonna,
to be comfortable in order to tell their truth.
right. It's not basically gonna change the course of the situation, because I'm sure once married couples they get to the point where they've tried counseling, they tried to fix this. When they come before you, they made a decision, but you being relatable, it's gonna give that sense of peace and comfort where it could in fact make the process a little bit easier.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people that are comfortable going into a court of law their first several times, and most of these people have never been to court before, have no idea what to expect. So they do need a judge who's going to make them feel comfortable.
Okay.
Sure.
We hear the term nasty divorce a lot. And for a nasty divorce, that could mean different things for different people. If elected to judge, how would you work with the couples that come before you to try to take that term out of their heads or out of their vocabulary?
Well, I will tell you that there's always probably going to be those nasty divorces because of the types of people, and the type of relationship and the vindictiveness that comes with the ending of a love relationship.
Okay.
Um, so as far as ending the nasty divorce, the judge has some leeway to say, well, absolutely, we're not going to listen to certain types of evidence that has no relevance,
Hmm.
no wasting a bunch of time on trying to get documents that have no relevance and they're just for the purposes of harassing the other party.
Okay.
Not putting the children in the middle. And the worst thing that I've ever seen in my professional career, and unfortunately, it's become more and more common as years go by, is people who are um, starting like a criminal allegations where there's not any, where
Hmm.
they're making up um, false facts so that they can get back at their soon to be ex or to gain a civil advantage. Sometimes it's true, there's cases of abuse, so we all have to be respectful of the process. But I see that there's a lot of false allegations that are wedged against the soon to be ex to gain the civil advantage. And when I find that, I'm gonna lay it down hard on these people who do that.
Okay. Well, we do have comments and questions. I'm going to go ahead and post them. With those who need counseling, parents of children, how does the court provide resources for those who may not be able to afford it?
My opinion on that is I don't think that the court can actually provide the financial resources through the court system itself, but the court can direct the parties to certain organizations that do that. So, like Impact Family Counseling, for instance, there's no income requirement or any type of insurance requirement that goes with that. So, you know, you can direct that they go seek counseling from Impact, possibly family counseling or individual counseling for them and the kids, and they don't have to meet income requirements. So just
Absolutely.
being able to direct the people where they need to go for that.
All right, the next question. What is the most important thing that you want to do as judge for place 20?
In divorce court, and one of the main reasons why I'm running, there's a lot of backdoor types of dealings, and that has to happen as far as the couples making agreements to get their divorce finalized. But what I'm talking about is sometimes I'll see judges appoint their really good friends to be the children's lawyer, the
Mhm.
guardian ad litem. And a lot of times they'll use the same ones. And nobody really ever asks these lawyers, these guardian ad litems, what they've actually done as far as talking to mom 5 times
Mhm.
and talking to dad 5 times, or talking to the child in mom's home or dad's home. So I don't really think that they are doing that good of a job to determine what facts the judge really needs to know. I want to see some new blood, some new people. I'm not always going to rely on the same individuals, and I'm not going to hire my best friends to do those jobs because I want it to be just not biased from the start.
Absolutely.
So that's something that I want to see. And like I told you before about being biased, we all have a little bit of bias, but as long as we can retract that and actually see the facts for the facts and change our first opinion, recognizing that that was just judging the book by its cover. And that's really important too. So I'm going to give everybody a fair shot to present their story, probably multiple times if
Okay.
needed. I want to see that people have their chance to go to court and have their story told, even if the dad or the mom travels extensively for work. I'm willing to do everything I can within my power to make an evening reservation available at court if I can, or a Saturday morning possibility if the parties can't make it during the week. Um, I just want to make sure that everybody has their day in court, whether it be after hours or whenever they can possibly come to court.
Okay. And I apologize for looking down at my phone. The next guest, she's actually having technical issues, so wanted to tell her to calm down because we're already behind. But I just wanted to put that out there. The next thing I want to talk about, for so long, we always hear when couples don't have children, divorce is easier. Can you kind of speak to that?
Well, it's easier from the standpoint of the decisions about the children are not having to be made, but for those individuals that are actually going through the divorce, it's also very devastating, sad. Feelings of failure are definitely there. Um, there are issues with people without any children relating to property divisions, and a judge will hear those facts and then make the decisions regarding that.
Okay. Our next question. So we've talked about being fair, operating in integrity. When people leave your courtroom after they've been tried in a case, what is one thing that you want them to say that they got from the case with Judge Robertson?
I want them to be able to say that maybe I didn't get my way 100%, but she listened to me and I felt like she cared and she came up with a solution that we can live with.
And I did want to mention this because you mentioned Impact, and this is not a commercial for them, but I've seen it. They do offer great counseling even before you get married. They offer counseling to make sure that you're ready to get married to avoid some of the pitfalls that could potentially come up. So they do offer great programs. Another question that I think we don't talk about a lot. Well, let me ask you this. Can you talk about probably what has been one of the most interesting cases that would stand out to you in your years as an attorney?
Well, my most interesting case came after my own divorce when I was feeling like what's happening. I saw my camera.
Okay, you're back now. Stand by. Like to tell you, this is live. Live. You never know what will happen.
Why? How is it? Can you guys hear?
Yes, I can. I'm going to take you backstage for one moment. So I'm going to take her backstage until we can get her. I think she's back on now. Let me try to bring her back in. Okay, I think that's a lot better.
Again.
All right, she froze up again. We're going to try it one more time. Okay, let's see how we are now.
Okay. That didn't have an attorney, and they were convicted of a crime that they didn't commit. I'd been following the mass incarceration issues in Alabama, and quite frankly, they've always been there. Since the beginning of prisons in Alabama, at least since the '70s. So I wanted to help somebody, and especially someone who didn't have counsel. So I let that be known. It took me about a year and a half to actually for someone to contact me, and when they did, it was almost on accident. I began to represent this man, and he had been convicted of murder in South Alabama, and he wasn't even in the state of Alabama. So for the last 6.5 years, I've been working on that. Made a lot of headway in 2016. I think it was into 2016. It resulted in my arrest in a Houston County court, or it was a Henry County courtroom, where a Dothan police officer had come outside of his jurisdiction to take my property and to really intimidate me because I had found some evidence that really showed
Wow.
what I needed to show. So had to sue him in federal court to not only get my phone back, but because I was really frustrated with them trying to intimidate me. And it happened in the courtroom. They were trying to embarrass me, intimidate me, and make me go away. Well, I went back, without the phone, went back home, and I called my mom, and she said, "Well, you must have done something wrong." And that's how most people feel about the criminal justice system, that if they're arrested, you must have done something wrong. And instead of quitting, I fought back stronger. And today we're waiting on a verdict from the bench down there, and hopefully things will go the way that they should go. Because last we were there, I presented the proof that showed that he wasn't even in the state of Alabama when this particular murder happened. And the real murderer is actually in prison. But I won my 1983 action. I became a civil rights lawyer because of that. Well, at least a small civil rights lawyer.
Wow, she froze up again. That was really good. I wanted to hear the end. Hopefully, we can get her back on. Okay, let's try it one more time. Okay, so we're going to try once again to get her unfrozen.
If this
Okay,
happened to me as an attorney, how many other people, non-attorneys, does this happen to? And they have no recourse. They don't have a law degree to fight back from this. It's corruption, and it's got to stop. So I'm a fighter for the underdog, and I'm going to keep being a fighter for the underdog, even as a judge. I'll just have more opportunity to help people as a judge.
awesome. Last question. What makes you the best candidate for Judge Place 20?
Well, as you told the viewers, I'm a psychology major, and and as I've mentioned over the course of this, I had a brother who was mentally ill, and he committed suicide. I'm very aware of all the problems that people face, and I am empathetic and I'm intuitive, and I've gotten really good at reading people. But being a judge, you're going to actually hear facts and also get to read the people who are presenting the facts. So you get not only the evidence, but you get their demeanor and their live testimony. So I think I'll be good at deciphering the facts, making fair rulings, and coming up with livable solutions for families that are going through this divorce.
Okay. I want you to take the last minute and a half to appeal to voters again. Like I said, we are 6 days away from the election, and just
Okay.
appeal using your own way.
Um, I'm Ruth Robinson, and I'm running for Domestic Relations Circuit Court Judge, Place 20 in Jefferson County. And I'm running because I believe that when there are children involved in a divorce, there needs to be a focus on the children because they weren't asked to be here. They weren't asking for this divorce, but yet they're used as weapons in a divorce often. And I want to make sure that doesn't happen. I want to ensure that justice is done. And this is the citizens of Jefferson County's court. This isn't my court. This is the citizens' court. I want to make sure that fair rulings are done with adequate time spent on every single case that comes before the court. And I would appreciate your vote next Tuesday, May 24th.
All right, awesome. And go ahead and give your website out. I did fail to pre-enter it, but I will post it in the links after we end.
It's Ruth Robinson, the number 4, judge.com.
Okay. And also your Facebook page.
It's Ruth Robinson. I think if you get on the search on Facebook and type in Ruth Robinson, it'll bring you to me. And then I have a one for the campaign as well. It's Ruth Robinson for Judge.
Okay. And how can people contact you if they're interested in volunteering on your campaign? I'm sure you could use a lot of last minute.
Absolutely. There's an email address on the website. Also, my regular email address is ruth.robinson@me.com. That's me.com.
Okay.
So check that one all through the day.
Okay.
Yeah, I would love some volunteers. We've got plenty of signs, and I'm hoping for the best on May 24th. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, Lieutenant Robinson, we do wish you the best of luck, and we look forward to seeing the outcome of the race. And you are now part of the Prospective family, so we look forward to having you on from time to time to talk about different cases, or even if it's just things that you need to educate us on how we can be more educated about how things may be changing in the domestic relations court system.
Great.
Okay, and again, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, and you have a great evening.
You too.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was our first candidate for the evening, Attorney Ruth Robinson. She's running for Jefferson County Circuit Court Judge, District 20, Domestic Relations. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and take a brief station break, and then we will be back. So don't go anywhere. We will definitely be back. Please hold. And we are back. We are back. So tomorrow ends our 4 days together this week. And tomorrow's guests include Charles Winston III. He's a candidate for state representative, Alabama House District, seat 54. Also, we'll have attorney Paul Rand and attorney Tierra Young Hudson. They will actually kick off our segment together. I know you've seen their commercials. They're running for different places. Attorney Rand is running for place 16 in Jefferson County, and Attorney Hudson is running for place 14, but they are both on running for judges in criminal division. If they are elected, this will be the first time that we have had public defenders to serve as judges. So this will be a historic moment. So they will kick us off tomorrow at 7. So you definitely want to tune in for that. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I am excited about my next guest. Attorney Carla Morton is a Birmingham native. Earned a Bachelor of Science degree from Faulkner University, where she was admitted into the Alpha Phi Sigma Honor Society, the only authorized criminal justice honor society. Carla received her JD at Birmingham School of Law while working as a litigation paralegal. She's been a member of New Rising Star under the pastorate of Dr. Thomas Beavers for the past 20 years. Carla is the proud daughter of Jimmy and Flora Morton, who nurtured her with a foundation rooted in faith and devotion to others. Carla has a 24-year law profession and has been a devoted, intelligent, and talented litigator for 14 years. The District Criminal Court in Jefferson County, where she serves as a special judge, taught her the value of case management and alternative dispute resolution. Her private practice is built on ethics. Her client advocacy is anchored on legal research, the continuous study of law, and a deep knowledge of the substantive norms of law. Ladies and gentlemen, it is mine indeed great pleasure to introduce to some and present to others Attorney Carla V. Morton. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing me to come in on your show tonight.
Absolutely, you are indeed welcome. So let's kick things off. Yours is kind of different. And this I wanted to make sure that you were on. As we all know, I've been mentioning it. The current judge who holds this seat, Judge Agnes JaPaul, she has decided to retire, and she has openly endorsed you. Kind of talk about the conversation. Did she recommend that you run in her seat? Kind of talk to us about that.
Yes, she and I are church members, and she has been my mentor for a number of years, even while I was in undergrad working as a paralegal. She has been a part of my life for a very long time. And when she came to me to say that she was going to retire, as this is her last opportunity as a judge, she inquired whether or not I would be interested in running for her position. And after prayerful consideration, talking to my pastor and my family, I decided that I would like to run for her position. And she has given me her 100% support throughout the process.
Okay. I don't think it was a chance that the previous judge before you, Attorney Robinson, is also running for domestic relations, but in place 20. So some of the questions may be similar, but
okay,
the flow. So the first thing, let's talk about operating in honesty, integrity, and having a positive attitude. Kind of talk about what that means to you.
Yeah, so having a positive attitude is the ability to communicate with people at all genres of life. You know, we have to understand that the people in our community is in fact our neighbors. And as they are our neighbors, our job is to make sure that we treat each other with respect. And so respect starts first with self, and then it extends to others. And then you understand what is needed for our community. So being able to communicate with people, deal with people as they come in, domestic relations court is a very sensitive court, because as people come through the court, they are in fact coming in after making a very difficult decision. Understanding that the decision is difficult for them is something that we need to, as judges, need to know, and to make sure that we're sensitive to those issues. So having integrity, judicial temperament, and oftentimes since I've been on the trail, people ask me, what is judicial temperament? And I basically say it is respect. respect for all people that come before you, making sure that you treat them regardless of their economic status or regardless of their financial situation or their influence in the community. Everyone that comes through the court is treated with respect.
Okay. And then briefly, I also want you to talk about in one of your commercials. You talked about being a servant. Let's talk about what does being a servant mean to you, and how important is that, especially in the court system?
Yes, being a servant to me is something about, again, going back to community. I have been a member of New Rising Star for 28 years. And one of the things that we were taught as part of New Rising Star is giving back to the community, being a servant in the community. However, my servancy goes back farther than that. My mother and father were foot soldiers back in the civil rights era. My grandmother was also a foot soldier in the civil rights era. So seeing them work, fight, endure the things that we had to endure back early on in our existence is what taught me about what being the best person that I can be for the community. So when I decided that I wanted to get into law, I started as a legal secretary. That was my first introduction right out of high school. I became a legal secretary. I worked in the legal secretary position for a while, learning the system, learning the people, building relationships. Then from there, I graduated up to a paralegal. I went to Jeff State Community College, got my paralegal certification to continue my service in the legal profession to people in the community, as well as then went on to law school and thus ended up opening my practice and been a practicing attorney for 15 years. So my legal experience expands over well over 25 years. And so for me, being a servant is getting into a field, getting a niche for which you love, you respect, and you honor so that you can share that with other people. I have to often talk to children as they're graduating from high school, entering into college, or transitioning from elementary to high school, making them understand that it's all about gaining the education so you can utilize that education to give back to the community. That is what we should do. The tools that we get, the jobs that we have, they should be about giving back to community in some form. You know, I remember the late Larry Langford used to say, whether you are a garbage truck driver, you give your best. Whether you work in a park, you give your best. So the onset of giving your best doesn't matter what you do. It's just how you do it that matters. And that is what I believe service is about.
Okay. So domestic relations court, we know that this is basically you will encounter couples who are seeking divorce, and there could be children involved.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about, because I know you've been on the campaign trail heavy. Can we talk about some of the things that you've been hearing from the community of things they would like to see happen under your leadership as judge?
Yes, what I have encountered on the campaign trail is mostly when you talk to women, what they want basically is the protection of their children, getting necessary resources that they need in order to provide after a separation. I often talk about that oftentimes you go from a dependency when you have been the male has been the breadwinner and the provider for the family, and now as a single parent you have to step into that role. So sometimes it's difficult and people don't understand that you go from having someone handle affairs for you to now you're having to handle the affairs for you and your extended family. That can be very difficult. So for them, they wanted somebody who's going to ensure that the child support guidelines are promoted effectively for them. When you talk to men, what their biggest complaint has been is fairness when it comes in the courtroom and equal rights to their children. And that is something that I have promoted as far as what I talk about shared custody, joint custody, ensuring that we have an effective reconciliation or parenting plan. Oftentimes, what people don't understand is that problems could be solved quickly if you address them on the onset, making sure that people know when they come before you that you are about family. Just because your name changes does not mean you have the right to quit on your family. You still need to be intricately involved in what is going on. And fathers want to be involved as well as mothers want them to be involved. And all involvement is for the best interest of the children, because it is in the best interest of the children that they have both parents in their life. And both parents should have as much access, which is reasonable. So what I say as part of my platform is that we will cater to orders that cater to the individual needs of the families. All orders cannot be the same. Some orders can't be first and third weekends, you know. Some orders can't be off and on. You have to look at the family dynamic, see how the family is working together or the lack thereof, because oftentimes they cannot agree. And so we have to create an order that will allow them to agree and have the services that they need so that they can either start off trying and then later on develop as the relationship, as the child grows and things such as that. So I think it is very important for people to have a plan in place to ensure that even though the name changed, the family unit, the commitment of the family can remain the same.
Okay. Being a fair judge, what does that look like to you?
Being a fair judge is then ruling on the law, ruling up under the law and not based upon emotions, ruling based upon the law and not legislating from the bench. That is what fairness means to me. You need a judge that is knowledgeable about the law, one, but you also need someone that is knowledgeable about the issues in our community, two. Judges have discretion, and you often hear people say that the judge follows the law, but the law can be amended based upon the discretion. There's a Latin term that called ora tendency. And what ora tendency means is that the judge hears the facts themselves. And so once the judge hears the facts themselves, they apply two of applications. One, they apply the law, and two, they apply their discretion. And so having someone who has a good temperament, someone who believes in the family, someone who believes in the community, when it comes to them applying their discretion, is what is the most important thing that you're actually going to need when you have someone on the bench. So that is going to be the most important concept of having someone fair, equitable in the community to ensure that they understand the law, but they also understand the application of how it applies to individual families.
Okay. When you look back at your career, what is one that you'd say stands out to you more than any others?
The one case that stands out to me than any others is me being able to successfully get one of my former clients out of prison after facing a 20-year prison for a wrongful conviction. That conviction, he was wrongfully convicted of rape. And I was approached by his family where he had already served about 9 years at that particular time in prison. So by the time that he came to me, he had been, the family came to me, I'm sorry, he had been in prison for about 4 years at that time. And so then I began to evaluate his case and made a determination, looking into things to ensure that I understood the facts and that I didn't come in a situation that had already been adjudicated to a point that there were no relief. Once I figured out that he, in fact, had some relief available, then I started seeking that relief on his behalf and ensuring that he got the information that he needed. So I was able to get him out after filing motions in state court, which is called a Rule 32. You file that in state court. And then after it is heard in state court and the judgment is not what you perceive it should be, then I file what is called a habeas corpus in federal court. And that is a habeas corpus, a Latin term that says, bring me the body. And basically what that means is that this person needs to be brought before the court, and the court needs to hear the factual basis of his case to ensure that the court is aware of what I believed were errors of law and needed to be redressed. After being able to effectively get that done for him, then we were able to get him out, and he was fully exonerated. All charges cleared, his rights was restored, and he's back to his right standing in the community.
Okay. Divorce. Divorce is already difficult. How important do you that you feel that being relatable as a judge can help couples ease some of the tension? And the case is going to be difficult anyway, but it could possibly make the case a little easier when they see you as a judge relatable.
Yes, I think being a divorcee myself, and I talk about this on the campaign train. Being a divorcee myself, I was married for 17 years and suffered a divorce. And my prior spouse and I were friends from the age of 19 up until we married and then subsequently divorced. So we had a very long history. I had a long history with his family, had a very long history with his children, but unfortunately, we suffered a divorce. But what happened through counseling, what I promote is counseling, and an understanding of what I was taught as a youth, that the heart does heal, things will change, the heart mends, and you can move on. I was able to apply those things that I was taught in my youth by my mother and my father, who also suffered a divorce. But seeing their relationship, they continued to nurture me as a child. They continued to be a part of each other's life, even though they were separated. Each had different spouses, but what was most important to them was their children, making sure their children knew that they were there, they were not abandoned, they were going to be a part of. So even though my mother and father were separated, if something happened, my mother called my father. My father was present. My father was there. So for them to know and understand that I too have been stood in their shoes as a child, and I have also stood in their shoes as an adult. And what my platform is about is counseling, mediation, and trying to resolve services, get services that individualize relating to the individual families themselves and not just the status quo. I think that people will understand that she understands me, she understands what's going on with me, and as a result, I can trust that she's going to hear me, she's going to listen to me, and she's going to recommend things under her discretion, right? To us that will help us either go on and develop a healthy relationship or make sure that the primary objective is the best interest of the child, ensuring that we benefit the child overall.
Okay. The next, um, there's an echo. I think it
Yeah,
may
I
be.
think it is an echo. Yeah.
Okay. 1 second. Hopefully that's a little better. If not,
Okay.
we'll pull through. Um, when we talk about divorce, like I said, you see different couples. I asked this question to our previous candidate, and I want to ask it for you.
Okay.
Sometimes, no matter how aged the child is, when they find out that mom or dad is getting a divorce, sometimes they can feel that it's their fault.
hmm
What would you say to those candidates that come before you and the child has said that?
Well, I would tell the child, first of all, it's not your fault because this is an adult decision. This is a decisions that adults are making. We don't know why they're making the decision, but it's their decision. And unfortunately, we have to teach our children that adults often going to make decisions that you're not going to understand. But as long as there is a tactic of communication and that all parties can learn to communicate with each other and allow them to ask questions. That's why I promote counseling in the way that I do, because the fear and the frustration, underlying fear and frustration, is something people don't talk about. Children often are, parents are often instructed not to discuss the process with the children. Don't talk about this, don't talk about that. And so you kind of close the door to communication. I believe that the doors of communication should remain open throughout, not negatively, but in a way that you navigate a positive communication techniques. The reason that my platform was created is that I did my research. And one of the platforms that I thought that was very good is one that is done in Montgomery County. And Montgomery has what's called a transitioning program from divorce. And
Okay.
what they do is they recommend the same things: counseling for both parents, co-parenting classes are introduced for them to learn how to co-parent, and conflict resolution classes are introduced for them to learn how to navigate through whatever disagreement they're going to do. And the most important class is what is in the best interest of the child, letting the parents know that their decisions, even though they're adult decisions, do affect the mind of children in a way that needs to be recognized. Because, if you're mad at dad, you may inadvertently take it out on the child. I want to talk to my dad. You like, well, you can't talk to your dad today. I don't want you talking to your dad. And so with that, you often have to make sure that you communicate to the families that you cannot restrict it in such a way where it's detrimental to the child. And that is something that I think is very important.
Transparency. When being a judge, how important is it that judges are transparent and don't hold back? You said it best earlier, getting caught up in your emotions.
Yes, the transparency is simply following the law and ensuring that the individuals know what the law is. I was often asked a question once on the campaign trail: if you saw that a attorney or a party was being mistreated, or the law, the agreement, I should say, was not effective, what would you do? And so what I said, the tools that judges have to their disposal is they can do what we call a settlement conference. And then all parties get together, and then they then sit down, and the judge sits down with them and said, okay, this is what you all have agreed, but this may be outside the boundaries of the law. You may have more to offer. Let's look back at this again. Or you go back and you look at the recalculation. Is this fair? Is it equitable? Because in divorce court, it is not 50-50. People believe that there's 50-50 resolutions. They're not. Alabama is an equitable court. So they look at the needs of the individual, and they look at the ability of the other individual. And what we want to do in that space is to ensure that no one is destitute. You don't want to leave a father homeless or a mother destitute simply because divorce. Because what happens is it affects the child. The child will be saddened to know that daddy was put out of the house and he has now nowhere to go. And now mom is asking for $1,100 child support, but he has to find somewhere to live. Those are the kind of things that I believe that when you look at them from the perspective of fairness, transparency, to ensure that the laws are followed in a way that all parties are equally represented, and that there is a fine line between discretion in application of the law and also application of the law itself, ensuring that all parties know, okay, this is what the law says, but your facts may gear you to want to do this. And that is what a judge can do. Now, you don't want to get into a position where you're telling attorneys how to practice law, because you want to remain neutral. But you do have tools in your belt to ensure that you can instruct or direct it to a point of fairness. And oftentimes you just have to be firm and say, hey, this is the law. This is what we're going to do. If the agreement does not represent what the equitable disbursement of law should be, then the judge can firmly step in and say, hey, no, I'm going to do this, and set aside the agreement altogether.
Okay. Divorce where there has been abuse in the marriage. Let's kind of talk about that, because I think that's something, it happens, and
Yes.
let's talk about that.
Yes, well, divorce where there has been abuse, oftentimes people come into court and then the first thing they file is what's called a protection from abuse form. It's called a petition. And so that is the first thing that they file. And the protection from abuse is what's called a PFA. Many people look at it as a restraining order. And from there, they file that. And those restraining orders are powerful tools. And so they should not be taken lightly. They should not be filed on a whim, because they do have the ability to immediately restrict the person, immediately. Restrict them from the home, restrict them from contact with the children based upon the allegations in that petition. Oftentimes, there is violence alleged in there, whether it is violence towards the individual or violence toward the child. And so with that, you have to look at those petitions very carefully, because the law says the accusation must be immediate and irreparable, which means that if you don't help me, this is what's going to happen. So courts take those things very seriously. So once they file that, then normally if the restrictions are put in place, the individual does file for divorce, and the divorce is oftentimes based upon the allegations in the petition. So they sometimes work hand in hand. Now that's one scenario. Oftentimes scenarios come in where they just simply file a divorce. And in the divorce, they say, I have been a victim of divorce, domestic violence, and I'm filing this because of the harm or the hurt that he did to me. At that point, there is no involvement from the court because that's just a simple complaint making an allegation for which the other party has a right to answer and say yes, no, or whatever. And so those are not very immediate issues, but those are issues that you have to look at if you are the judge, because remember, there are attorneys on the other side. And so if those issues come in and they can file a motion for what they call immediate relief, and then they file that motion and ask the court to then make a decision outside of a petition there is, but make a decision, and that's called a PLR. That's a permanent legal relief at that time. And so then you get that relief at that moment, similar to a PFA, but it's a different process where there's not immediate, it's not irreparable, but I have been harmed. And so with that, you want to look at those allegations and see what you can do to help that person at that time. But again, remember, these are just allegations. So you don't want to be swift in your actions to believe what you read, as I like to say. Don't believe everything you read. We look at the facts of it once you have opportunity to examine it, and then you make your determination to protect that individual and to get help to the accused. Because remember, there may still be children in the middle who may have witnessed it, even though they haven't said it. But if mom and dad is fighting in the house, we can believe that the child has seen it. That is why I believe counseling immediately as part of domestic relations is necessary, because there are a lot of hidden issues that is overlooked because people are just trying to get it over. I just want a divorce. So they're not even talking about the issues, but having the tools available at that time can possibly help individuals at immediately, even though they don't tell you.
Okay. We have about 11 more minutes, and I want to make sure I do get in as much as possible.
Okay.
Be giving wise advice to the parents about being mindful of what they say and do around the children, because things do affect children, especially younger children. We don't like to talk about it. They can have crying spells. Bedwetting can happen. There are a lot of different things, behavioral problems. What advice would you give to those couples that come before you with children to ensure that they're creating a healthy space where the children are concerned throughout the divorce?
I often tell people, as a practicing attorney, when they are bickering and there are children, I try to take them back to the beginning, take them back to the friendship, take them back to the early days, and then make sure that they understand you don't have to hate one another. You don't have to go through this process hating. It's okay to separate. If you want to separate, separate. If you want to divorce, divorce. But you don't have to be mean. You don't have to extend hatred over to the other person, especially when you have children, because a mother has a powerful influence over her child. A father has a powerful influence over that child, and that child is going to pick up those influences. And this is what we don't understand and what we don't tell each other. They take it with them. They don't just pick it up and put it down. They carry that disposition with them into their relationships, into their new family. I mean, we all have had people that said, my daddy left me when I was 10. I didn't have anybody in my life, and that is why I turned out the way that I did. Those are the things that I would like to change by having that communication available for them to understand that if you do this, you are carrying a legacy or developing a legacy to your child. We need to stop and break those things to ensure that we develop healthy relationships. In order for us to develop healthy relationships, we have to teach it. We have to teach it just like we can teach bad. We have to learn how to teach good. And that is why I want to implement the programs of counseling, mediation, reconciliation plans, co-parenting plans. Because if you teach them the tools, then they can take it with them in their next relationship or their next involvement, understanding that it's always two sides to a story. Everybody has their own story, but how we write our story is how we can make our future better. And that is what I want to deliver as judge in domestic relations.
Okay. So this was ask you, and I didn't ask either of my candidates that were also running for seats for domestic relations.
Yes.
As a judge, what steps do you think you could possibly use and measures where we could possibly see a decrease in the divorce rate?
Okay, yes. I think as a judge, what you can do, start with counseling. Again, I go back to that. We in counseling also has a stigma to it. And people think if you're getting counseling, something is wrong with you. No, counseling is a problem solving tool. And that is what it is. Just like we go and talk to our pastors, just like we talk to our girlfriends, just like we talk to our next door neighbors, and oftentimes talk to our relatives. That's counseling. But getting constructive counseling that can potentially help you with someone that is neutral, that can let you know that, hey, there are, again, two sides to a story. We need to evaluate this. And oftentimes, if you can catch them early, then you may be able to change their mind. Because most of my platform communication has been this. When they come through the door, they're angry. One person don't even know they're going through a divorce. That person is going to be shocked. And so they came in with an upset issue. They came in with an anger issue, or they were making a decision based upon what I call lost wages. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe you all had a severe argument. Maybe you had a fight. Maybe you've had some issues that are unresolved issues. And you say, okay, it's enough, it's enough. We've been together 10 years. I don't want one more. But what you can do is by having those tools available to help them to be able to communicate in a better way, they could possibly resolve those and reconcile. And that's why I call reconciliation plans. Because what happens is you don't know what brought them into court. You may can't fix it. But if you give them the tools that can help them be able to communicate with one another, they may be able to fix it themselves. And that is how I would like to be able to help people in our community develop better relationships and make and save some marriages by having those tools when they come in the door. Oftentimes people say, well, why do you believe it's important to have them when they come in the door? Because by the time you go to talking about the house, the cars, separating the dishes, who's going to get the children on the weekend, there's anger and resentment being already built up. And what I want to do is stop the resentment, stop the anger at the door so that we can start communicating on possibly reconciling or getting a good parenting plan together so we protect the parents and we protect the children throughout the process.
Okay. This is a little bit so in before we out. Um, Marriage counseling before marriage. In your opinion, is it still effective or is either way? And tell us why.
I think that marriage counseling before marriage is still an effective tool because I think what most people don't realize is that marriage change, saying I do changes the dynamic of the relationship. You go from, okay, I'm independent and I'm doing my own thing to now you're a unit. Not getting very religious, but when the unit changes, there are some dynamic and some structures that change with that unit. Expectations change. The wife now expects the husband to be the husband, and the husband now expects the wife to be the wife. But the problem is nobody was taught how to do that, right? Those are just name changes and duty changes, but nobody was ever taught. Premarital counseling teaches you what that means. So if you go in at a time and you don't understand, you and John have been together since high school and y'all have been best friends, but now you finna become spouse. What does becoming spouse mean to you? Because everyone has an individualized determination of what that means. So you can learn what that means. What is your expectation for John when you take his last name? And so I believe that those can still be effective tools that can help people on early on so they'll know what the expectations are. This is not a game. This is not something to be played with. You're actually taking someone's life into your hand. You're making a commitment to someone that is a valuable commitment, and you're starting a family together. Those things need to be talked about before we decide to do it so that when you do it, your expectations could be in place. Now, some people will follow it and they go fine. They got 30-year, 25-year marriages. Some people don't, and they still have 25, 30-year marriage. So it just really depends on the people and what their perspective is when they go into marriage.
Okay. Awesome. So before I allow you to give your final remarks, go ahead and give people your website, your Facebook page. Tell people how they can contact you if they're interested in making those last minute phone calls on your behalf, helping you canvas and helping you on election day.
Yes, the website for my campaign is www.carlavmortonforjudge.com. There you can sign up to be a volunteer. You can donate to the campaign. You can sign up and let us know of community events that you believe that we need to come to. And if you do want to work at the polls, there's a section you can put down that's saying that I am available to assist to make calls or do poll work for you. What we're looking for is just for the community to come out. We're asking you to come out and vote, come out and participate in this election as needed, because what you're looking for in a judge is someone that is compassionate, somebody that is honest, somebody that has integrity, somebody that has your best interests at heart. We don't play politics as part of our campaign. Our campaign has been family first. My mantra is family over politics. So this is not about a politician's getting a job. This is about a person who has been a servant for most of her life, looking to serve at a higher status, being able to relate to the people in the community, being able to offer something to the people in the community. And that is what we want to do. That is what I want to do as your judge.
Okay. The last sentence, give the view one as to why they deserve your vote on Tuesday, May the 24th.
Well, I believe that you should vote for Carla V. Morton because first, Carla knows and Carla cares. Carla cares about the community. Carla cares about your family. Carla cares about the services. And I believe that when the services are implemented under my judgeship, that the community is going to change, that we're going to see a healthier community. We're going to see healthier families. We're going to see things that we haven't seen before, because what I want to do is get community organizations involved. We are sitting back, allowing people to come in to domestic relations hurt and allowing them to leave domestic relations hurt. And that is something that I don't want to do anymore. I think as a practicing attorney, and I've been practicing for 15 years, I see what has happened. I see what occurs. People are spending thousands of dollars to save their relationships with their children. What we need to do is put that money to a point where they can get the services that they need. They can get immediate results so that they can save the money, save time, and hopefully save a family's relationship. Even though your name changes, it's okay. But it's not okay to quit on your family. And that is what I'm about. That is what I want to do. My mantra has always been community, family, and unity, because that is what I'm about. I'm big about my family. My family has been a big part of my campaign. Shout out to the Morton Harris family, because they have been a big part of it, because we all believe in the same thing. We were taught this. We were taught to be close. We were taught to remain a part of each other's lives. And that is something that I think is going to be an important aspect in domestic relations under my judgeship.
All right. Well, thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, we give it to you again, Attorney Carla V. Morton, candidate for Jefferson County Circuit Judge, place 23, Domestic Relations. Thank you for joining us, and we wish you the best of luck to you and many blessings throughout the remainder of your race.
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity, and thank you to your guests for tuning in.
You're welcome. Absolutely. So again, ladies and gentlemen, that was Attorney Carla V. Morton, and at this time, we're going to do one final station break, and then we will come back on with our last candidate for the evening, State Representative Louise Alexander, who is seeking to win this time Alabama State Senate District 19.
What's going on, gentlemen?
First Kingdom Records is going broke.
Redeeming Records reached out and...
You think I'd license my song to Caesar?
Mom, if we don't expand gospel, we'll end up irrelevant. I'm in charge of A&R. I scout talent.
You're in charge because I put you in charge.
Give it up for my wife, the queen of gospel music. I've been asked to hold a memorial for the Williams girl.
The dead stripper?
Danny loved music. Can someone explain the purpose for the pain? Deliver us. Oh, no.
Deliver me. Don't cast me down with the sin be. Trample my enemies.
This girl work here? I just want to talk.
So talk.
Can we stop, please? You have a God-given gift.
You looking at it.
You have over 2 million hits. She's everything Kingdom needs. She can reach people that you never could.
You set me up?
You and my mom got history, but she's a star, right? Or am I crazy?
Crazy like I was the first time I heard your mother sing.
You know who I am, and I can't change that.
I don't care where you come from, only where you're going. Your reign is over.
Is that a declaration of war?
It's time to tell you a story.
All right, we are back. So that was a look at the series Kingdom Business, which premieres tomorrow on BET Plus. You do have to have the BET Plus app. It's a 7-day free download, and when you watch the series, you will get the first season one at one time. So definitely, that looks like something great. Just wanted to share that trailer as a teaser. So at this time, I'm going to bring in our last candidate, State Representative Louise Alexander. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I am doing great tonight. How about you?
Doing good. And I did want to do this. Let me go ahead and change the background a little different because you are no stranger to Bessemer. You're no stranger to Alabama. In your own words, tell us who Louise LuLu Alexander is.
Well, you know that Lulu always stuck with me from childhood. When I was born, my aunt, I was named after my aunt, and my mother always told me, you get around and you just move so fast. We had to call you a little Lulu. So Lulu have stuck with me. But I'm State Representative Louise Alexander. I am no stranger to the citizens of the state of Alabama. I've been in representing the state of Alabama for 20 years, 12 years as city council, 8 years as state representative. And not only that, I own my own business. So altogether, over 40 years, I have been, serving the state of Alabama, the city of Bessemer, Brighton, Lipscomb, Hueytown. I have touched every family or some families in those cities.
What was that push for you that said, okay, our area where the state senate is deserves better? I know I can do it. What was that push for you that said, okay, I got to run for this seat and I know I can win it?
Well, I have always respected the individuals that was already in those seats, just like Mrs. Don now is in the seat here. But at that particular time, it was Mr. McAdory, and I wasn't going to run while he was in there. But then he said he was retiring, and I said, okay, if you're retiring, I'm going to give up what I'm doing and go ahead and run. And I ran for the seat, but I just felt like it was time for somebody with more energy to get in there, somebody that can speak up for the citizens, somebody can stand up. Not saying that he was not doing that. He was doing a great job, but I think it was time for somebody with a little bit more energy to be in.
Gotcha. And you do have a lot of energy for them who don't know
I tried
you.
my best.
So before we start talking about the things that you want to work with your colleagues to accomplish as a state senator, let's talk about some of those wonderful things you've done during your time as a state representative.
Okay. Well, let me tell you some of the things that I have lately have done. One of the things when we came out, COVID came out, a lot of individuals lost their jobs. Jobs
Mhm.
were shut down and everything. So I partnered with the Maple Chambers Foundation. I partnered with Save the Youth Foundation. And what I did with these two individual foundations is I gave Save the Youth 30,000, and I gave Maple Chambers 20,000. We had individuals that lights and bills was getting, lights was getting cut off and stuff like that. So we could at least pay the sewer part of it to, give them a little relief. A lot of folks didn't have money back then and still don't have money. A lot of folks haven't went back to work. So what I did was I planted a seed with those organizations, and it really helped out a lot of individuals. And not only that, I was talking to my pastor yesterday, and I was talking to some individuals. If you look at today's date and what's going on with our youth and young adults, our young males and our young females, the way they are getting shot and being buried within a week, we got to do something. We got to come out our dresses. We got to come out our suits. We got to get back out in the street. We got to save our kids because the future is theirs, not ours. I always tell my kids today, and I tell other folks, at my, a lot of us got 1 foot in the grave already, age wise, and but if they kill themselves off, then where our future lies.
Absolutely.
So, it's not about the seat, it's about the citizens, it's about our communities. We got to get out here and take our communities back. When I was growing up, like they said, a village raised me. My next door neighbor, around the corner, whatever, they could whoop us all the way home and we couldn't say anything. If we did say anything, we got another whooping from our parents. When they took the prayer out of school, stuff like this have really put an impact on the way we live now. Our, church. Just think about what COVID did to us. We had one place that we could be comfortable in,
Church.
and that was going to church. No matter what your problem was, you looked for Sunday to come to go to church. But when COVID came, it shut down everything, even the where you go to get a relief. So now we got to get our youth and young adults back into church. We got to show them how to really live their lives. We got to, when I tell you mental health right now is out there, we need some solutions. We got to add more money. We got, from the state side, we got to work and make sure that we can add more money, that we can put counselors into our schools. Because when our kids go to school, we don't know what they've been through at home. So one thing about it is, it's not about me being in Montgomery, sitting down and making laws or passing a budget or doing that. It's about what can I do to impact my community? What can I do to help my community grow? And that's what I'm about. I am about the community. I'm about the citizens of the state of Alabama.
Okay. And you said something very key. You said it's time to get out of our suits and ladies get out of your dresses. And let's talk about getting in the trenches and being relatable. Because a lot
Yes.
of times, a lot of our youth and our young adults, they don't feel like we as adults can relate to them. Let's talk about the importance of being relatable.
Let me tell you something. One thing about me, and a lot of people can attest to this. I don't know. I don't care who you are or where you from. I can talk to the best and I can talk to the less. I am not above anybody at all. I am on the same level. If I see a person in need, I'm gonna help that person. I tell everybody, babies are having babies.
Mhm.
You understand that? Babies are having babies. So what I do now is I try to talk to the young ladies and talk to the young men about how life should go and what I expect or what their parents should have expected out of them. And a young man told me, he said, Miss Alexander, I was out campaigning, knocked at the door, and I told him who I was. And he said, I heard about you. I said, good or bad? That's me, good or bad? He said, no, they told me just come over and talk to you about a job. And I talked with them and I told him, I said, let me tell you something. This is my number. Call me. No matter what you need, no matter what time it is, you call me if you need me. So my thing to each and everybody that we got to lay down what our priorities is and see the needs of the priorities of these youth and young adults out here in the state of Alabama that and our communities. You see, we had graduation last night. I was a part of Fairfield. My grandson graduates tomorrow from Bessemer High.
Okay.
You look at the rates of the students that's graduating. When I graduated, it was 300 and some students that graduated. Now you're looking at 80 some, 90 some. We got to get back out there and not demand, but plead with them, show them the right way, show them, hey, you need this to get this. Fast money is not always good money. And I tell them, fast money is not good money, no way. But we have to learn to talk with them, eat with them. You don't, do you see young people nowadays, they nobody want to sit down and talk with them. Nobody want to eat with them. Nobody want to share a conversation with them. But you know what? I can always say my flower shop was the conversation piece. When anybody wanted to come in and talk, I let them came in. They came in, we had a conversation around the table. I couldn't get work done and didn't care about it. Don't get me wrong when I said, but I cared more about them, and I knew I could get my work done later that night or before it was due. But the bottom line is we got to put more attention on our youth and young adults. And not only that, even when it comes down to our senior citizens now, they're afraid to sit on their front porch. You know, when I was growing up, we could sleep on the front porch because it was just that safe. Now you can't even sit on your front porch. And I tell people that every day until we can do something about this gun violence, stop it. But you see the bills that we have to face and the things that we face in Montgomery, this bill, is carrying. I'm like, oh my God. And I even stood up and I asked a question. I said, what do you think about the police officers, the law, and the law that protects us every day? Oh, they don't. I looked up in the gallery. I said, tell me this. How many of you up in the gallery right now is okay with this law? If so, stand up. Not one stood up. But yet and still, they have to vote a certain way. And they don't care. Like I told them, you don't live in a neighborhood like I live. Your neighborhood may not be the same structure of my neighborhood. So I have to vote the structure of my neighborhood. I have to save the peoples in my neighborhood. So that's, the bottom line is that's how I vote when I'm in Montgomery. I vote for the citizens and their safety, their well-being.
Absolutely. Let's try to, because you have some great bullets that you are basically running on. So we're going to try to get to at least four of them tonight.
Okay.
The first one I want to start with has been a hot topic during these Meet the Candidate forums that we've done. Medicaid expansion. Tell us if elected to the Senate, how do you plan on working with your colleagues to make sure that every eligible citizen of Alabama has affordable and fair Medicaid?
Okay. Well, let me explain to the audience today what happened to the state of Alabama when President Obama put it out there to expand Medicaid expansion. Governor Bentley refused it. Governor Ivey still refused it to this day. They fight it. It's not only hurting us, it's hurting them as well. So you rather hurt both sides instead of expanding it. But I'm going to continue to fight for it. And upstairs is 35, downstairs is 104. I feel like we got one arm on them. When it comes to the lottery, let's add that to it. Let's say part of this money for the lottery will go to expand Medicaid expansion. The rest of it go to our educational, fund for our students here to have an opportunity to go to college. Instead of just going into general fund and the governor can do what she want with it. No, I'm going to stand on education and Medicaid expansion. Not only Medicaid expansion, but also a solution for mental health is one of our big keys. And so I feel like I can work across the aisle with 35.
Okay. And mental health was where we're going to go next. What does that look like for you? Because it's affecting everybody, not just our law enforcement, not just students, not just teachers. It's affecting regular everyday people. So what resources or things do you plan to work with your colleagues to put in place?
Well, one of the things I want to do is make sure that we could put more money into mental health by putting money over into the educational side when it comes to the educational budget for more mental health counselors within the school system and our school system. Right now, I think it's one or two that goes from school to school to school. That's no help. You need a person, a counselor that's going to stay there each and every day, not travel from school to school. One thing that I want to see is that doing the budget that not only the Senate, but down in the House where I am now, continue to fight and push for more money to go into mental health. Just like you see all these young men and these young ladies going, especially the young men going into churches, to the mall, shooting everybody, they got a mental problem.
Absolutely.
A lot of folks that left from Tuscaloosa, from Bryce's, they're here in Jefferson County Jail. They don't have a problem by killing, stealing. Their problem is mental health. And we need to go along and, like I told Sheriff Petway about the facility that he was talking about. I supported 100% to get a place instead of putting them in jail, have a place where we can put them to get mental health services. You can put a person that got mental health behind bars all day. Time you let them out, they're gonna do the same thing. But we need a place that they can have access to getting help. So that's the kind of things I want to do when I get in the Senate. Continue to reach out and find ways of bringing back to the state of Alabama and bringing back to my community and bringing back to our community funds that will, help with these solutions.
Okay. Increase pay for teachers and retired teachers. Let's talk about that.
Okay, Alabama is the lowest paying teachers, is one of the lowest paying teachers out. We got good teachers. In order to keep our teachers, we got to raise their pay. We may give them a raise, but we got to bring them on the same level as everybody else. Good teachers will stay. I had one, and I can call her name because her name is Myra Jones and Miss Edith Hunter, right down here at Abrams. One thing I could say about them is they love the kids, and all the teachers love them. I mean, love the kids, but they went out of their way. Miss Myra, she just retired, and like I was saying to Miss Myra, I said, Miss Myra, I said, you was there when my kids went to school. You was there when my kids went to school. And I said, oh, you gonna be there when my kids go to school? She said, no, I'm finna get ready to retire. She said, but I did it because I loved them. It wasn't about the money. She said the money that I was making, I was putting back into the school system. I was buying things to make sure they had what they need. So the bottom line is we are losing teachers. We're short of teachers right now. And the only way that we can get teachers back into our classrooms is treat them right. They got degrees. Just like doctors got degrees, nurses got degrees, lawyers got degrees. They are teachers. They need to be paid right. So that's one thing I want to continue to fight, that they get the accurate pay that is necessary for them to be in those classrooms. And the retirees, a lot of them retired at a low paying rate. I want to make sure that every time the budget come around, we continue to give them some kind of increase until they can get to the right level as well. And our state employees, the same thing. We got state troopers and everybody out here, workers at low paying. I look at, and I go as far as even with the city workers, city of Bessemer, their police department, fire department, it's they're low. They're at lower rates. How can you keep somebody working for you when you pay them pennies?
Absolutely.
Let's be for real. They can't take care of their families. And I am here for it to be a voice and to be the person that stands up and continue to stand up for right for them.
Small business solutions. I know me saying that that's gonna, because I see several small business owners watching tonight. I know that's gonna make them excited. Let's talk about those small business solutions that you plan to work to put in place.
Let me say, I'm a small business owner myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when the pandemic came, again, everything revolves around the pandemic. It showed us, if it didn't show us, it taught us that one thing is a small business is one of the greatest things that a city and a state can have.
Mhm.
Your mom and pops, your regular everyday small business owner. When the pandemic came, a lot of them shut down and a lot of them lost their business. But I stood with those that wanted to open back up and wanted to do what was right for their families and to keep their business going. I was so impressed with the food trucks and with individuals that came up with innovative ideas on how to open up a business and start a business. So I want to make sure that small businesses get the same right as these larger business. I want them to get tax cuts. I want money to be available for them. I want them to have incentives to open a small business. I want to make sure that every city from Bessemer to Birmingham, Midfield, Fairfield have money to give business incentives to come to their cities to open up and help them to grow. And whatever I can do to help a small business grow, I'm going to do that.
Okay. Jobs training and entrepreneur training opportunities.
Let me say this. When I was growing up in high school, we had DE and DO. You had trade. The majority of our young people coming out of high school right now is not going to college. We need to put trades back into our school system. We want to make sure that every individual that want to learn something can have something. One of the things that I spoke with the governor about, and it was Governor Bentley when I first got elected to the state of Alabama.
Mhm.
I had to go and speak with him, and I told him one of the main concerns that I had was every child was not sculptured to go to college. And where I went to school down in Bessemer, I graduated from Abrams. We had DEDO, but you could go to Carver for brick mason, electric, and all that. Y'all took that away from our school system. I said, now what we need to do is continue to partner with Lawson State for dual programs, but let's put back into our school system barbers, beauticians, uh, trade. My brother learned how to build a house with Legos.
Wow.
Legos. So just imagine how many young men and young ladies out there, if you just gave them an opportunity, gave them the time, what would they do with their life? What kind of changes they would make in their lives? And not only in their lives, but in the community, in the lives of others as well.
Okay. Education lottery, and I've had current state representative Neil Rafferty on, who is one of your colleagues, and some more candidates. And I think what people don't understand, and you can attest to this, one of the reasons why we haven't seen a favorable lottery bill pass is the verbiage on it. Working with your colleagues, what would be that correct, just the proper lottery bill when you see it, you would say, okay, this is going to pass. I know it. What would that look like for you?
Well, one of the things that I talk to my colleagues now that I work with is that our lottery bill and your casino gambling bill should be separate.
Hmm.
What they're trying to do, they're trying to connect both. A lottery bill, and I tell folks, we always go to Atlanta, everywhere getting lottery tickets. I think that lottery bill should be a standalone lottery bill. If anything be added to it, it would be like Medicaid, something of that nature. But to say that with this lottery bill, we got to have gaming, we got to have this, we got to have the table gaming, and then with the lottery bill, you want to make sure that only 7 individuals be allowed to open up spots, and you
Hmm.
want to hand pick those spots. Only certain folks can hand pick them. So the bottom line is, my colleagues and I, we have stood together and worked together until we can get something that's favorable for our citizens in the state, our communities. We're going to stick together and say no to the type of lottery bill that they want until it can be a standalone and add Medicaid expansion to it. We're not going forward.
Continuing to bring new jobs to Alabama, diverse jobs. What does that look like for you?
Let me say this. Do you remember Larry Langford? I know everybody remember Larry Langford. He passed the 1 cent sale tax here in the state of Alabama to rebuild schools.
Mhm.
Well, after they rebuilt the schools, that 1 cent sale tax was sitting there in the county. Well, they came to us, Jimmy Stevenson and his colleagues came, and they want to convert that 1 cent sale tax to the county to go out, buy up property, and go out and engage businesses to come to the state of Alabama. Well, I can give you a good example. Right now on Morgan Road in Bessemer, you got Cabana, you got the new warehouse for Lowe's. They got Lowe's brought their warehouse here. Not only that, you got another Amazon warehouse that they just built on Lakeshore. All that comes from them engaging that 1 cent sale tax. Uh, Along with that 1 cent sale tax, it has created Kavana opened up, and I think right off the bat they hired 898 individuals right off the bat. Well, I know this because a lot of young ladies and young guys in the community that I live in, they work there, and they started them off with $18 and some an hour. Now they're up to almost 20, 28, and 29. Some got 30.
Wow.
And that's local. So if we continue to engage and build our communities and bring more businesses to the state of Alabama, and especially right, like I said, especially in my district, uh, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. And another thing is, I met with a young man here in Fairfield. He do CDLs,
Mhm.
and what he's trying to do now is get individuals, because at 18 now you can go out and do it. He want to grab those individuals that's getting out of high school, not going to college, teach them to become, CDL drivers.
Mhm.
And now today they had a groundbreaking here in Fairfield. One of the young men that is, bringing this is Porter, uh, Ed Porter. Uh, is looking now for 31 young men or ladies to hire for long hauls and short hauls. So, do you see the dynamics of that 1 cent sale tax? What it has done? Because it gave him an opportunity, being a black young man, he engaged with U.S. Steel, and U.S. Steel engaged with other individuals to help him get a business going. So I feel that if we continue to do, and they continue to do what they're doing with that 1 cent sale tax, widening roads, Morgan Road was widened in order for us to have more business to come. I just think we're going to have an overflow of businesses coming here to the state of Alabama.
Okay. Two more questions.
Take
Honesty
your
and
time. If you get five, I answer.
honesty and integrity. What does that look like to you as a state senator?
Let me say this, and I want to say it clearly for the record. My mother and my father always told me the only thing you got is your name. And I'm not going to mess up my name for nobody. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I can't do it, I'm going to come to you and say, look, I thought I could do it, but this is the most I could do, or this is what I found out. I am not going to mess up my name for nobody. And I tell folks, people can try to mess up your name all they want to, but long as you stand on what's right and do what's right. And I always tell people, stand on the word of God, you all right. And that's me. I'm going to stand on God's word, and I'm going to make sure that my name is always kept clean.
Being held accountable. That's something that a lot of candidates talk about. I've heard you make posts about that. Let's talk about when you're elected on Tuesday. How important is it that the citizens that voted for you hold you accountable?
Well, when elected on Tuesday, um, they can always. One thing I do is I am not. I am not a private person. I'm always give them my phone number, because I feel like this. If they can go out and vote for me, they sure can have my phone number to call me.
Mhm.
Anything they need or whatever I can help them with. If they got a problem, if they got a question they need to ask, they don't need to go through 20 channels to get to me.
Mhm.
When I wanted their vote, I went to them and I talked to them. Why can't I talk to them and be held accountable to answer their questions, to meet their needs? And everybody know me here, here in Bessemer, Fairfield, Bessemer. I mean, all around know me to know that if they need something from Louise or they need something from LuLu, as they call me, they can count on me. They can come and find me. One thing about it, and it's funny, one of the ladies at the funeral home said the guy came and said, I went down to Miss Lulu's shop and she ain't there. She said, hold on, let me call her for you. She called him, gave him the phone. Oh, Miss Lulu, I need to ask you a question. Such and such and such. And I couldn't do nothing but laugh. I said, where you at? He said, I had to stop by the funeral home, just asking had they seen you. I said, oh, that's all right. I said, well, I said, I'm finna pull up. I said, because I got to come in and sign the book and view a body and drop off a flower. He bust out, started laughing. He said, see how God worked? I came to the right funeral home because you was already headed this way. But
Mhm.
the bottom line is, you don't turn the back on the people that, voted you in. You don't turn the back on the people that help you. You don't turn the back on the individuals that, stood up for you and fought for you. And I will never turn my back on them.
Before we do closing statements, go ahead and tell our listening and viewing audience who in your district, what areas is your district made up of. We want to make sure everybody knows who can vote for you.
Okay. My district is all of Bessemer, all of Brighton, all of Midfield, all of Fairfield, all part of Town, Pleasant Grove, Dolomite, Wylam, Edgewater, Docena, Adamsfield, Gracefield. Come on back round Mugga Manor. Come on back to Inslee. And then we're going to go all the way down the Eastern Valley Road to the Tuscaloosa line. McCalla all the way down to the Tuscaloosa line.
You have a very large and diverse area.
I do. But one thing about it is being out there campaigning this time, I love walking and talking. Everywhere I went and every door almost that I knocked at, I knew somebody
What
or
is the
somebody knew me.
what is the one thing that you've heard on the campaign trail that voters have told you, Lulu, we got to see a change in this area?
And you know what that was about? And it touched my heart. And it was about what are we going to do to save our youth and young adults? They're killing each other. What can you do to help us solve this problem? What can we do to communicate to these youth and young adults that it's not, life is not that way? And I was telling a mother that had lost her son, I said, I said, give me an opportunity. First of all, right now, just to pray with you and to give you strength to understand that God is good and that whatever I can do to solve this, I will. Well, I turned to Pastor Caveritt of New Jerusalem Baptist Church. I talked to my pastor. I talked to Pastor Hayes of First Baptist in Bessemer. And one of the things I was telling them is our youth and young adults, they're killing each other by the minutes. They said, Louis, I said, by the time they clean up one scene, another scene is there. I said, they have nothing to do. Idle minds is a devil workshop. I said, so what we got to understand and what we got to do now is to take them and find things to get them interested in doing. I said, when I was coming up, we had the Lincoln Theater. We had, a little dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to them, I said, let's do some kind of concert. Let's do something where they can get back out in the open, enjoy music, just like this coming Sunday. I have partnered with Cornerstone Reverend Pastor Wesley to do a concert
Okay.
just to get everybody back out and to sit down, listen to good gospel music and jazz music, and just to have a family day in the park. and it's all free. I said, we got to engage them by doing something, but it not only engage them by doing that, engage them by getting involved with the local elected official, your local communities leaders, and not only your local community leaders, but the citizens of the community, and find out what do y'all want to see changed in your community? What do y'all want to see happen in your community? We used to play baseball and skate in Chambers parking lot. You don't see young people, these days on Union Five. You remember? I know you had a pair of them Union Fives, with the little key to go to it. So, I, the bottom line is, we got to get them elevated back to things like that. So, one of the things I want to do is just lay it out on the line to our youth and young adults that the type of life you want is not the type of life you live in now.
It's awesome. So before we allow you to do closing statements, tell people your website, your Facebook page, and how they can reach out to you if they're interested in volunteering for your campaign. I'm sure you could use last minute people to canvas with you, to make phone calls on your behalf, and to volunteer with you on election day.
Okay, it's going to be www.l Alexander for Senate. And my website is Louise Alexander for Senate and also Louise Alexander.
Okay,
I had to make two Facebook pages because it was getting crowded.
I got you.
But those are the website and the Facebook page.
And we'll definitely post those tonight after the show ends. And I want you to stay on after the show so I can get a flyer about your event, and we'll be sure to post it on your behalf. But for
Thank
the
you.
statement, I want you to take 1 minute and appeal to our viewing and listening audience why they deserve your vote and why you make the best candidate for Alabama State Senate District 19 on Tuesday, May the 24th.
All right. First of all, let me just thank each and every one of you that's on tonight for just listening to me. One thing about Louise, I got a heart for the people, and I communicate with the citizens of the state of Alabama in my community. You can always count on me to be there and to stand up for you and be the voice in Montgomery for you.
Mhm.
I am passionate about what I do. I am true to the people that I serve. And one thing, you always have a phone number to get in touch with me. It's nothing that I can do in Montgomery that you can't know, that you won't have the opportunity to know about. One thing I want to do is to bring back to the state of Alabama and to the community meetings, if it's every 3 months or however. But I want to work with our local officials, the mayor, the city council, our county commissions. All us come together, sit it around a round table, and try to find out and make solutions for our state and our community. So one thing about me is I will work hard for you, and I'm just asking for your vote on May the 24th. Vote Louise Lulu Alexander.
All right. And before we end tonight, just a few last minute reminders. Tomorrow, May the 19th, that is the last day that all absentee ballots can be returned by hand. So please make sure that you keep note of that. If you were going to mail in your absentee ballot, that deadline has passed. That deadline was on Tuesday, May the 17th. And then on this coming Monday, that is the last day to return your absentee ballots by hand to the absentee election manager. Please keep these dates in mind. There is nothing that should deter any of us from voting. This election is very important and there is a lot at stake. So,
It
ladies
is.
and gentlemen, we are ending our session for tonight and we will wrap up tomorrow. Same place, same time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. As always, keep the faith and have a great evening.